What's up, everybody? It's Chicago talk show host, and in this video, I'll be discussing the feature article of the March 2025 issue of Culture Wars magazine titled Guns and Rosaries: The Rise of White Catholicism by Dr. E. Michael Jones. So, guns and rosaries, do they mix? They seem quite different, and they are different. We use rosaries to pray the Hail Mary, the Our Father. We use it for prayer. Guns, at the end of the day, we use to kill. Kill for various reasons, but these things are not the same. So what's with the juxtaposition and this idea that maybe that they are the same? This idea that something that takes away life is somehow on the same level as something that promotes life. So what I'm going to do is read from the article some certain passages that stood out to me, and I'll share with you some of my thoughts, and let me know what you think in the comments. But without further ado, let's get started. So for the first passage that stood out to me, it gets right into the nitty-gritty. So after the introduction, EMJ writes, "After tweeting the link to a video on how Italians became white, I got close to 500,000 views in less than 24 hours. And most of the comments vilified me as a boomer, race traitor, etc. One of the more sensible responses posed a series of questions. 1. Are white Americans and black Americans the same or different race? 2. Are there racial gaps in cognitive abilities, parentheses, IQ, SAT scores, and GPA, end parentheses, between blacks and whites in America?" Now, there's another question in there, but I'm going to pass that along and keep moving along here with the passage. So EMJ writes, "These questions got to the heart of the sleight of hand that lies behind every discussion of race in contemporary America. The rhetorical term for sleight of hand is equivocation. Every discussion revolves around an equivocal use of the term race. If you don't understand equivocation, you will not understand the shell game known as whiteness. To equivocate means to use unclear or ambiguous language to mislead people. For example, when asked directly for his position on disarmament, the candidate only equivocated. To use one word with two different meanings to deceive is a fundamental characteristic of the race narrative." So in reading that, I have to agree. I agree that there's a lot of BS going on when it comes to race and the racial narrative. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of deceiving people. And why? Well, they don't want people to realize that the primary identification is not your skin color. It's actually your faith, your religion. And that doesn't mean that just because you're Irish or you're German or you're Italian, just because you say that if you do believe and you are Catholic, it does not minimize the fact that you are German, that you are Irish, that you are Italian, right? And the faith is very careful about this. And if you read the article, it shows you what Pope Pius XI said about this sort of thing. It has direct church documentations about what they think about this sort of thing. And the answer is clear. Race ideology is not compatible with the faith. So to further hammer that point, we're going to continue to read. And so EMJ writes, "In question 1, race is used descriptively to distinguish between the appearance of people born in Africa and people born in Europe. The differences are obvious. They are what I would call a category of reality. Having accepted those differences in appearance, I am then asked to accept race as a normative category of the mind or a moral imperative, which now affirms that one, quote, race, end quote, i.e. phenotype, is good and the other is bad." So this is what we're talking about, right? So suddenly When we're talking about, oh yeah, there's a difference between a European and an African. Sure, one has white skin color, or we use that term, and the other one has black skin color, right? Everybody knows that. But wait a minute. Now, the sleight of hand starts to come in when you start to say, when the racist starts to say, oh, with that person, this person is quote unquote good because of their skin color, because of their genetics. And that is where the sleight of hand is. That is where the person is trying to deceive other people.
Card, any card. Go ahead and memorize this. Watch this. If we just give it a flick, all right, just so happens.
Because genetics do not determine how you behave and that kind of moral capacity. The genes in me don't determine whether or not I follow those 10 commandments. It's willpower. It's faith. It's the way you were brought up. It's everybody's individual free will that gets to determine how you conduct yourself in the world. It is not because of your skin color or the size of your nose. Okay, everybody, this is going to be the second passage that stood out to me. So without further ado, let's read it together. So EMJ writes, this is precisely what happened in the transition from question 1 to question 2. Once I have accepted the reality of the phenotype, I am expected to accept not only the validity of the standardized tests, but also the claim that the results of those tests are determined by a biological substratum, which all members of that phenotype share. If I demur, or if I claim that environmental issues like family structure may have something to do with the tests, I am accused of denying science, just as accusations were leveled against those who refused to be, quote unquote, I can't say that word because of the YouTube censorship. So there you go. Can't say that word either. So during the medical narrative years of 2020 through 2022, I'll put it that way. I digress. EMJ continues. This equivocation then leads to preposterous statements like, quote, the IQ of the average Haitian is 75, end quote. Which got me wondering when an IQ test was last administered in Haiti and in what language. Is there an IQ test in Haitian Creole? EMJ continues. He gets to the heart of the matter. Listen and pay attention to this. Gaps between black and white standardized test scores disappear as soon as criteria like intact family structure or its absence gets factored into the equation. Illegitimacy is a significant problem in the black community, but sexual behavior is a function of the will and not a function of DNA. Those who feel otherwise will have to prove their case rather than smuggling their conclusions into the argument by sleight of hand. The same thing is true of violent behavior. Illegitimacy is a much better explanation of why crime is higher among blacks. Children who grow up without fathers lack the abstract sense of right and wrong that is the basis of social behavior. And may I add, the basis of civilization. We all know this. Ho, ho, ho. So the truth starts to come out. It turns out this has more to do with family than it would otherwise seem, right? But no, you've got the racists, the race believers, the race bro grifters, right? Because this is what they're doing. They're grifting, they're misleading people, they're deceiving people. They love to ignore how much family structure has a role in society and civilization itself. And not just any family, baby. We're talking about what we've always known. A mom and a dad, right? But they've got to be present. They just can't. It's not just about, paying the bills and when, okay, you go do your thing or whatever, and then I'll yell at you if you do your homework wrong. It's not just that. That both parents have to be involved in that children's life, in that child's life. But don't believe me. Don't believe me because I've got prepared. I've come with evidence and information. And I'm talking about The Boy Crisis book. This was written by Dr. Warren Farrell, PhD, and John Gray, PhD, both esteemed authors. I can't recommend this book enough. Make sure you go out and read it. This is pertinent to the topic, and we're going to go into it. In this chapter called Why Dads Are So Important, but here's the third passage that stood out to me. EMJ writes, schism, as St. Augustine pointed out in his treatises on the Donatists and on baptism, is based on lack of charity, as manifested in refusal to associate with the communion united by the Bishop of Rome. That lack of charity eventually becomes manifest as hatred for the Catholic Church and eventually hatred of the Catholics who remain in full communion with the Church. So there you have it, everybody. That last passage in particular, it sums it up beautifully. At the end of the day, the race ideology, the race bro grifters, people who are deceiving other people by pretending to be Catholic or Christian, but are really out there to deceive people, underneath that soft hidden underbelly of driving this force is hate. And you have other lesser qualities, things like exclusivity, things like pride, things like division. Guess what? Those qualities are all antithetical to Catholic teaching anyway. The Catholic teaching message, the good news, is universal. The Catholic good news is meant to unite people. And then, of course, pride is one of the 7 greatest deadly sins. So there's a message of humility there. So it's like the opposite version of that. But you think about it. You let me know what you think about that. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Like if you learned something from this video, and make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much again for watching. I appreciate it.